Kenya, we really support internal auditors and capacity build internal auditors in various ways through trainings. Of course, we are a membership organization. We do very many trainings. Our calendar is full, including in-house trainings, which are customized to your needs. We also have our certifications for internal audit. So we have the CIA and the CRMA. CIA certified internal auditor, CRMA certification in risk management assurance. And we also do a lot of consulting activities on GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. So participants, welcome so much to this webinar. In partnership with the HRM, we are happy that professional bodies are now coming together for the benefit of our joint membership. I would urge you to visit our website, visit our social media pages so that you can learn more. I've seen very many people have said they want to learn more on internal audit, on the soft skills of HR. So that is very good. You can visit us to learn more, call us, email us, so that you learn more on internal audit. So this is a very exciting webinar, and we are glad to be co-hosting with IHRM. We'll have 2 speakers for this session, and you can keep your questions coming on the Q&A. So we'll have our first presenter, CPA Dorothy Chepkoech. Dorothy is an audit manager at a local bank and has a lot of board experience and also a GRC enthusiast. So Dorothy sits in the board of directors of IIA Kenya and chairs the advocacy committee. So Dorothy will take over the next session. Please, let's keep our questions coming on the Q&A section. So welcome, Dorothy.
Before we welcome Dorothy, Joyce, sorry, allow me to pass our ED's apologies. Our executive director, CHRP, Kurosha, will be joining us late. She was supposed to give our welcoming remarks, but she's held up somewhere, but she will join us later. So thank you so much, members. Welcome, Doreen.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam CEO. Thank you, Milka. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes, yes, you are, Doreen.
All right, thank you. My name, as has been said by the CEO at our institute, is CPA Dorothy Chepkoech. I'm a GRC enthusiast. So a GRC enthusiast means I'm passionate about governance, risk, and controls, which is the basis for basically internal audits. I've been an internal auditor for the past about 12 years. And I have experience also sitting in board audit committees. So I have the experience of both the side of the auditor and the side of the board. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you today as we go through HR audit. HR audit is one of the most, let me say, challenging audits. And basically because you are our employers, so it's hard to tell our employer that they probably are not doing something right because you're at risk of your job. So this is a very good engagement. So we will tell you what we do from the internal audit side, and then IHRM will go ahead to tell us what they do from the HR side. So I'll do a presentation. Allow me to share it. Just a moment. So is it visible?
Not yet, Dorothy. I'm trying to share.
So it's visible now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'll start the presentation. I have heard from the members that are joining in that one of the objectives, or rather the expectations they have, is to see or to learn how to, practice soft skills in internal auditing, especially of HR. So my objectives, or in the order of the presentation I've made, is in the next 30 minutes, I hope to tell us about internal auditing, our role, who, what, how, when, and the principles of the models that guide us in what we do. Then I'm going to tell you about our perspectives from our HR audits as internal auditors, the outlook, the risks, and the scope when we go to audit HR. Then lastly, I'll talk about the relationship among the core roles. Now that will summarize how we are going to relate when we are auditing, and also relate with the stakeholders that we engage through during the audit process. So I'll go straight to the first. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Please put in presentation mode.
It is actually on presentation mode. Just a moment. I don't know if I'm able to do that, Joyce.
The icon down here on your, yes.
That's fine.
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine.
So the first place I was going to discuss is the role of internal auditing. And as Joyce had explained, we are a sub-entity or an affiliate of an international institute for internal auditors. This is the body that sets the standards, it sets the guidelines, it sets the code of ethics. Basically, we are a very professional institute that is guided by specific standards. And so internal auditing is an independent, objective assurance and consulting activity. We bring value to organizations, including HR, among other functions that we audit in organizations, by bringing a systematic and disciplined approach to how we evaluate, so that we improve effectiveness. And we basically look at all the processes. When we come to audit a function, we look at all the processes. And sometimes because of resources and the like, we do what we call a risk-based audit. So that means we assess and see which are the highest, or the places that have the highest risk, and that is what we would focus on. So why HR? Why would we want to understand each other more with the HR or our employer? And the first one, as I had said before, is HR is our employer. It's the unit that brings the capital and the key resource for the institution. So if we get it right at HR, then we get it right in most of the other functions. So, and HR connects the value of human capital to the business's bottom line. If you look at most organizations, performance or P&L statements, the highest cost, if you look keenly, will be the staff costs. And this is because it is a very key resource for organizations to run. And so audit partnering or relating with HR well, is one of the main reasons why we would then be able to push the objective of our bottom line. Then also HR professionals they work everywhere, just like auditors. They are in every organization. They're needed in every organization for the key role that they play. And that is, recruiting, training, ensuring the organization is run by competent resources. And also HR participates in long-range planning. It's part of management. And so it's a key role that internal audit would like to partner with to be able to add value to the processes in that specific unit. So forgive me, I have a cold, so have a bit of a voice issue, but I'll try my best. And also, organizations are basically, an organism that is made up of human beings that are undertaking operations, doing activities. But the backbone of it all, even as we try to automate and do all that, the backbone is human beings. And HR is a person that takes care of those people. So that is why HR and audit. So our role as internal auditors is guided by IIA's 3 lines model. So the 3-line model is a principle-based model that sets the organization in a compact way, as you see in this diagram. Diagram is by the Institute of Internal Auditors. So we'll look at the diagram on the right. So at the top of the organization is the governing body. That is usually the board of directors. And this is the board that sets the tone at the top. It sets the tone of integrity, on leadership and transparency. So the lines, the arrows, the one pointing up shows you which role is accountable or reports to which one. The arrow downwards shows the delegation, the direction, and the resources oversight. And the arrow sideways show the alignment, the needed communication, and the coordination and collaboration. So internal auditors are guided by this model when they look at an organization. And so the topmost is a governing body that sets, the tone and sits there on behalf of the stakeholders. So at this level, they set the integrity, the leadership, the tone, the way the organization is basically supposed to be run. And then they delegate this to management. And management is where we have the first line and the second line roles. So under management is these are the people who are delegated now the role of executing what the board has in, like the sight or the vision that the board has. So the management comes in, and in management, as I've said, we have the first line and the second line. So the actions of management include doing the actual work, oversighting as management, and first line, and then they're the people who actually do the work. So then in the first line, we have the people who provide the services. In the case of the bank, that would be the front line tellers, the people at the front. These are the first line people that actually give the goods or services. Then the second line would be the risk departments. These are the people who have expertise in supporting and monitoring and ensuring that, there's a risk culture that is inculcated, and they also help if there are any challenges or implementing. So they come in as a second line, but still under management. And the third one is the third line role. This is internal audit. If you look at the arrows, internal audit directly reports to the governing body, that's the board, functionally, and they report administratively to management, that is the CEO. And the structure is made that way to allow for independence. So the internal audit does not participate in management or the doing, so that they're able to give an independent objective and assurance that what the management is doing is actually working to be able to deliver the goal that the governing body has in mind. So if you look at the diagram on the left, the three lines are described basically as I've explained. So the question I'm going to ask is HR first or second line? From the explanation that I've given, would you say HR is a first or second line or both? And why would you categorize it as that? And as we said, first line are the people who do, second line are the people who ensure that risk is managed and have an oversight of the controls that are put in place. So that's my question to the team. What is HR first line or second line? Or is it third line? Which one? How would you place HR? Anyone? Okay.
There's some answers, Dorothy.
Yeah.
Alexander said first, Winnie have said second, others first, both, second, both, first, both, first, both, and first, second, both, yeah.
So the answers are actually correct. HR has both first and second line roles. And I will give an example. HR will hire, will recruit and train, and that's a first line role, because then we would come in as audit and ask them, as a first line role, did you put in place, did you did you adhere to the recruitment guidelines? Did you adhere to the requirements, both in the private and public sector? And HR would also be second line because, for example, in performance appraisals, because they don't do the appraisal, but they ensure the performance appraisal is done as is required. So HR has both first and second line roles. Another function in an organization that behaves like that would be finance. And that's because finance would just report on what it has received from various entities in the organization. So I'm glad we have the understanding that HR can do both, or HR has the features of both. So next, we will go to an explanation of the principles that guide now this model. Now that we have an understanding of the way the organization sits in the perspective of internal auditors, and that's the governing body, the management first and second line, and the third line, that is the internal auditors. In the older model, before it was refurbished, we used to talk of them as defense, lines of defense. So the first line would be the people doing, that's the first line of defense. And our reasoning is that if something was to, to bypass the first line, if a risk was not to be caught at the first line, then the second line would be able to catch it, maybe by looking at compliance reports, exceptions reports, by looking at risk assessments and results of controlled self-assessments. So the second line would then be able to catch it. So if it passes through the second line, an audit comes in now and says, guys, you've been doing this for the past 3 months and we don't think this has been done effectively, and this is the risk, and this is how it might affect attainment of objectives. So the principles that underlie this model or this structure, the first one is governance. And governance, as we have seen, is the role of the governing body. And it requires appropriate structures and processes so that when people are doing at the level of management, they're not asking themselves, how do we do it, or what should we do? When governance is set correctly, then you have the appropriate structures, you have the appropriate processes, and so you're able to run the organization effectively. So there's the accountability by the governing body to the stakeholders. Then there are the actions, including the management of risk by management, which they now do the delegated work to be able to achieve the objectives. And then now there's the assurance and advice from the third line, and that's the structure of governance. Then the governing body roles is the second principle that ensures appropriate structure, processes for effective governance. This body ensures the objectives are aligned. When the management presents a strategy, the governing body ensures it's aligned to the vision of the stakeholders. And then it makes sure that it delegates the roles properly and responsibility, and make sure that management has adequate resources to be able to deliver. And lastly, they also ensure, remember, the internal audit reports directly to the board functionally. So they ensure and they establish an independent internal audit function that will give them an objective assessment of the progress that now management is doing to be able to attain the goals. So then the third principle is management and first and second line roles, as we've discussed. First line roles are mostly directly aligned with the delivery, product, and services. Second line roles provide assistance with risk management. Third line roles, internal audit, they provide independence and objective assurance. There's also the external auditors, the other people who come and review our activities. Those are also, they support the third line roles. Then the last principle is the importance of independence of the third line. For them to be independent, it is always designed in the structure in that they report directly to the board and administratively to management. This design, this independence allows the auditor to come to HR and be able to say, I did not participate in recruitment, so I'm able to objectively review the recruitment process and give you an objective assessment of whether this was done as per the principles or as per the laws that are there, or regulations that are policy procedures that are in an organization. So next, we'll talk about the challenges or the myths that surround internal auditing. And these myths are all over. And this was first done by Richard Chambers. He's one of the key founders, or was once a chair or a CEO of the Institute of Internal Auditors Global. And he came up with from his breadth of experience, he came up with about 5 myths or challenges that are associated with internal auditing. So the first myth is that internal auditors are accountants by training. I know HR will not agree with this, and this is because we have HR auditors, we have nurses who audit hospitals, we have quality assurance that takes the structure of audit. And the reason why internal audit as an institute, the Institute of Internal Auditors is there, is to be able now to, we can add value here by equipping. Because now as a HR practitioner, as a nurse, for example, if you're auditing a hospital, you are best placed to audit the hospital because you do the actual work. But now auditing has specific procedures so that you get a valuable output. So the myth that all auditors are accountants by training is not true. And it is a myth that can be debunked by creating a diverse staff. So if you are an engineering company, you can have your engineers as auditors, but now equipped with the auditing skills. And if and also HR can help us by debugging or demystifying this by, for example, when we are advertising for internal audit jobs, we can, if it is a hospital, for example, we would say, yes, you need to know some audit processes by having CIA as a course, or, and the added advantage would be that you are, in this case, a nurse or a doctor, or if it's a HR outfit, then someone with a HR background. So that's the challenge, because when people look at you as an accountant, then they assume that all you've come to do is check if the numbers are okay. The converse is true. Audit looks at everything, including the controls in financial reporting. And there's also the thought that there's the external audit, which comes once a year to look at your financial health. But internal auditors are usually part of the organization, and they're continuously reviewing with you, and they stay there with you throughout the process or throughout the life. They're actually employees. The second myth is that auditors are nitpickers. And nitpickers means people believe that auditors focus on, just finding fault or finding out. And this is why in the audit of the past, auditors used to be considered as inspectors or police, but this is changing, and this is the way we have managed this is, by focusing on preserving and protecting and continuous improvement, so that we communicate that we are really about adding value and not just finding fault. So the reason we may find a fault is because we are all about continuous improvement. So when we review a process or a document, then we just want to add value for the betterment of the organization. So it's not all about nitpicking. Then the third myth is that it's best not to tell auditors anything unless they specifically ask. Now, this is because, again, people believe auditors, this borrows from the second myth that auditors just want to find fault. So when you don't tell auditors what is happening exactly the way it's happening in the organization or in the process or in the function, then the auditor would just have to, expand the scope and try and find out for themselves. However, when information freely flows and the audit tools usually give unfettered access to documents and processes and people, when we are open with internal auditors, then we are able to help the organization to actually do better. So auditors have also tried to overcome this by developing soft skills, which is what one of the attendants had asked, so that you're able to, engage in a way that you're able to bring out issues that don't surprise the audit clients, and also that we all agree on that these are the issues that are happening in the department. The fourth myth is that internal auditors follow a cycle in selecting their audit targets. There's just a standard checklist. We are just cyclical. We just come once every 9 months, and this happens because usually audit does a plan for the whole year, and sometimes when you assess a department or a unit or a process is risky, then it's possible to do it every other time or more frequently than a process that is considered less risky. So, however, auditors are doing this by, are trying to change this by how they do, try to do audits differently, try to get out of a comfort zone. If we're auditing a whole unit before, then we would now go back to breaking down to audit a process so that we continuously add more value, and so that we also break the myth. The fifth myth is that internal audit is a corporate police function. And this goes hand in hand with the thought that we're just about fault finding. So on this one, we're working on attitude as internal auditors, because we work with you. We are not just going to audit you and go. We work with you. So we're working on our attitude, and then we present our collaborative partnership through actions that will that we will be able to work as one together, and when the focus is one, that is attaining organizational objectives. So those are the challenges. I'm going to ask the attendants, which myth does HR practitioners agree with? Or which one do you believe is true about internal auditors? And once you give me that one, I would also want to know, as a representative of internal auditors, what should we do to overcome it? How can we get better? Which myth do you agree with? As internal auditors, the myth that you shouldn't give auditors all information, that is one we really struggle with. Which one do HR practitioners believe? Which one do HR auditor practitioners believe is the true myth? Which one do you experience?
So Dorothy, I can see there are a lot of fault finding, corporate police. HR should not share information with auditors unless they ask. Fault finders, corporate police, wametumwa na wakubwa. That's from Paul. Lillian, give only what they ask. Fault finding, not all information should be shared. Fault finders. Auditors are police, maybe they need to package their feedback in a better way. Lillian Karumbo, okay. Fault finders. Okay.
So the common one is fault finding.
Yes.
But Joyce, the common one is fault finding.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll take that feedback. And how would the HR practitioners want auditors to change this? How do we change this? What should we do better? Someone's hand is up, huh? Maurice.
Maurice, you want to type your question so that we don't. Maurice, please just type your question and then I'll read through. Dorothy can continue.
Okay, so the fault finding is one of that's the one that HR agrees with, and that is a very common one, and it's the nature of the work, because you'll most definitely be told that you are supposed to do ABCD and you did not do. In fact, it's just that we, as I've seen somebody suggest, we can rephrase or present our observations in a better way that will speak to what also the organization is trying to achieve. However, we'll take this feedback and improve and see what we can do more and better. Okay, so then I'll move to our audit of HR. So in my research, as I was preparing for this presentation, I read quite a lot of stuff online. The expert in this field will guide us later, but the ones that we came across are, these are the risks that were identified in 2022. And first one is pandemic-related challenges, then succession challenges, where people depart, or how do you move on? How do you retain top talent? How do you deal with Generation Z? Then there's pandemic-related market conditions, which reduce customer demand. And since we are all about the bottom line, then HR would have to wonder, now what do I do with a fully fledged HR or fully fledged resource of staff, which now deals with a lesser demand? Then there's adoption of digital technologies, which requires significant effort to upskill and reskill. So that means a lot of training, and also in the backdrop of a reducing budget, that becomes a challenge. Then there are economic conditions, inflation, constraint of growth opportunities, which basically affect the bottom line. Then there's the latest kid in the block, I think, which is what I've seen people calling it quiet quitting, which where people just come to work and do the bare minimum on survival mode. So my question to HR, okay, I know there are other risks that are in your purview and you're probably working on seeing how to control or work around them. What controls is HR, or what controls a HR professional putting in place to mitigate this risk or do the workarounds? That's a question to the HR practitioners. What are we doing to deal with these risks that we've seen in 2022? They're likely to spill over to 2023. What are HR practitioners doing about them? Okay. Okay, I've seen increased engagement. So I'm sure when we engage HR, when we do HR audits, these are the questions the first place auditors will go is find out, does HR understand or know the risks that are facing them? does HR have mitigations, controls? What are they doing to bring those risks to within the risk appetite of the organization? And are these controls working? What is the exposure? What is at risk? Are we going to lose all our Generation Z? Are we going to? These are the questions that audit asks when they come to do the audit. So I'll move to the next one, which is the outlook for 2023. And this is based on a survey, again, I found online about that was done by Gartner. Over 200 HR leaders were surveyed, and these are the top priorities looking into 2023. And so when audit is planning their 2023 audit of HR, these are the things you'll also be looking at so that we are aligned to the strategies of the leaders in the organization. So Gartner said that based on the survey, these are the top 5 priorities for 2023. Leader and manager effectiveness. 60% of those HR leaders say this will be their top priority. And 24% of them say that the leadership development approach in their workplaces does not support to prepare leaders for the future of work. Second one, priority is organizational design and change management. 53% say this was their top priority, and 45% of them they say that employees are fatigued from all the changes and disruptions. I suppose this is what could lead to the quiet quitting. Then there's employee experience. 47% say this is their top priority. They believe the organizations do not have compelling career paths. Then there's recruiting. 46% say this is the top priority, because as they go, then you also need to keep bringing in new skill, new talent. 36% say that their sourcing strategies are insufficient for finding the skills they need. And also there's competition for talent. Then the last one is future of work. 42% of the people surveyed say that this is a top priority. How does the future look like? And 45% say they do not have an explicit future of work strategy in view of remote, hybrid workforce planning, flexi hours. So that's the outlook of 2023. Now, when you audit HR, the scope is purely all your processes: recruitment, training, benefits, compensation, payroll. And when we come in, we assess all these processes and we look at the controls you're putting in place. And we only audit the areas that the residual risk after our assessment of the controls you've put in place. Then those are the ones if the risk remains high after you've put your controls, those are the ones we focus on during the audit. Now, the audit process, we start by assessing the risk. We identify, as I've just said, high-risk areas, then carry out the review. We do a report, that's the output, and then follow-up for closure. I saw a question in the chat, please, which was asking about the structure of a HR audit report. I'll talk about that at the end part of this one. Then you can do self-review by taking the observations that come from internal audit. By working with your risk department, you can develop a risk control self-assessment. So you see, usually when audit comes, these are the areas they look at. So you can maintain a risk control self-assessment within your continuous risk management, so that you're continuously checking what is it that we're doing wrong, what is it that was raised in the previous audit, and what have we put in place to close the gap. Then you can be compliant as a RCSA report. Then there's if audit will pick discrepancies in compliance, regulatory laws or compliance to policies. Audit will pick issues with business review, the cost benefit, for example, of training, because HR still has a role to deliver on bottom line. And then also the frequency of HR audits, it depends on the organization. If the functions are not risky, or if it depends on the risk assessment, it usually at least once a year. Then audit report templates, which is to answer one of the delegates who asked, depends on the organization. However, as the professional or the institute, there are 5 things that we must capture in an audit report, and this will help the person consuming the report to be able to understand. So we have the 5 C's. That's the criteria. The criteria is what should happen. That's, for example, it's a policy or a best practice or a benchmark. Then the condition is we tell the person reading the report, this is what should have happened, but this is what is happening. That's the condition. And we put it in context, how it is happening or why it is happening. And then, so the why did it happen is a cause, the root cause, the lapse that led to the condition existing. So, and then the next question is, so what if it happens? That's the risk, the negative outcome, the opportunity for harm. That's the consequence. And finally, what next? So what should management do? It's the corrective action. So that's the structure of our audits. And then this is basically to tell us now, how do you manage the relationships? And this is the relationship between governing body and management, the relationship between first line and second line roles, the relationship between internal audit and the governing body, and among all roles. And relationship management usually takes the same structure, the same methodology, and that's continuous engagement, continuous collaboration, continuous working together to be able to, focus on the bottom line. That means audit should participate, understand what is going on, understand audit business processes, understand the HR processes, so that as they come to audit, we are all focused on attaining the bottom line. So I'm going to summarize on this part of relationship management, and this is because it's anchored on simply how you relate with each other to be able to deliver on the bottom line. This was supposed to be 30 minutes. I think I've overshot it, but that's the end of my presentation. And I think we'll take Q&A after the IHRM presented us. So thank you. Over to you, CEO.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. Thank you for that presentation. Members, now you know the top 2023 priorities, the HRD priorities. I hope you are ready. So let's take questions at the end. Let's allow TM to do his presentation. We have our own doing the presentation. Today we have two speakers. We had CPA Dorothy, and TM is also coming up to take us through this. Actually, we've been having HR auditor, certified HR auditor training, and we've done two trainings. We've certified around 60 HR members, and they're out here, and some of them have joined. And if you've joined this session, if you're on call, you can confirm that TM is one person that can train you for a whole month without getting bored. Every day, 1st to 31st. He's been taking us through HR audit, and you're planning. Our 2023 calendar is almost out. Please watch out. So allow me to introduce TM. TM is Tom Mushele. Mr. Tom Mushele is a human capital management, governance, strategy, and leadership consultant based in Nairobi, Kenya. He has over 15 years of professional experience working for national and international corporations, NGOs, and INGOs in Eastern Africa, Somalia, and South Sudan, and the Sudan. TM holds Masters of Education in Education Management, Curriculum Development, and Planning, Bachelor of Education, all from the University of Nairobi. He has higher diploma, distinction, not just credit or pass, distinction in human resource management, goes from IHRM. Mushele is passionate about human capital management, strategy, organizational design, strategic performance management, talent management, etc. He is the lead trainer of the Certified Human Resource Auditor course offered by IHRM itself. He is here to tell us more today. He has mentored, coached, and trained many managers and leaders and HR practitioners in Kenya. Most of you can confirm, if you are on call, you can confirm that TM has mentored many. And yes, he's here to take us through the second session. Karibu sana, Mr. Mushele.
Thank you, Milka. Good morning, colleagues. Happy to listen to what Milka has been saying about me. We run around all over the places with Milka, so we share quite a lot going forward. I'm happy to see. I was just checking the participants, and I've seen quite a number of them. People I've worked with. I've also seen my former boss, some great gentleman, Mr. Otori. he provided a lot of mentorship to me. So part of what I am today is because of him. Colleagues, we've listened to Dorothy, and it was a wonderful exposition on the way forward. And what I want us to know from the beginning is that the internal auditors and HR, we kind of share the same WhatsApp group in the organization. We are the cohort that accrues quite a number of enemies. We are misrepresented. We are misinterpreted, and everything that can go wrong in our sphere actually easily goes wrong in the space of the HR audit and the internal auditors. So basically, we are a team that, in the language of Shakespeare, we have been more sinned against than sinning. I think from the start, even from the feedback I saw, easily being labeled as a fault finders. It's not just the internal auditor, we are all being labeled as fault finders. It is not a good label, because the kind of brand image that is out there regarding those two entities really needs salvation. We are not doing well at all. In the same line, because of the nature of our work, we easily run out of trust. Our trust accounts are thoroughly depleted. We do not have much left in our accounts. So this calls upon all of us in whatever work we do as HR practitioners, as internal auditors, to really engage in service recovery. We really need to do service recovery and redeem the image of the kind of settings that are prevailing in the market. When we talk about HR, we are talking about people. And the people environment has really changed quite a lot, from being obsessed with the administrative efficiency during the days of personnel management, to being obsessed with the strategic human resource management, and to now being obsessed with the HR from the outside in. That is the new talk. Can HR study what the outside actually expects of it? And then can we have this outside being brought inside for operational purposes? So I think that's where we are at the moment. It's not been an easy journey for some of my colleagues online. I know we are still struggling because in high-level meetings, we more often than not find ourselves on the menu. And we are saying if we extricate ourselves from that scenario, then we will now start sitting at the table. So some of us are sitting at the table, making decisions, high-level people and culture decisions. Unfortunately, some of us, we feature more often than not on the menu, whether we are the starters, the main course, or the after. So that's a challenge we are facing. And that challenge has come out of the operational requirements of the business. And because of those operational requirements of the business, we found ourselves in quite some challenging scenarios. Now you throw in the requirement for HR audit and our world just goes berserk. Because people will say, we have actually learned to live with you as is now. And here you are now throwing in demands on HR audit. So it is quite a challenge, and we need to rebrand, we need to reinvent ourselves, we need to retool ourselves, we need to upskill, we need to reskill, all those terminologies which we apply to other people in the organization. They must start with us. So this environment of HR audit, it's a slightly new environment compared to the other facets of people and leadership, because hitherto we always depended quite a lot on the internal audit processes to actually help us check ourselves as well. However, along the line, we have had internal audit for HR, which is now the HR audit. We've had it developing significantly as a body of knowledge. And because of a body of knowledge, it has its own principles, it has its own process, its own tools and templates and everything. So the key thing is, within the context of the organization, how do we then work as a team? How do we onboard the internal auditors and align the two parties to deliver the business goals, to deliver the business intentions? That's the kind of setting we are facing. And what we are saying, I'm just having a challenge moving my slides. I don't know, I'm seeing they're not moving because I'm using two gadgets to inform me what the progress. Milka, you guys can see the first slide. Are you able to see the second slide? Milka?
Yes, Tim, you can see the slides. If you can put them on slide mode.
It's not moving. You know, sometimes technology just decides to disappoint you.
To behave, to misbehave.
Yes, to misbehave, but it's okay. My second slide is not moving, so let me just manipulate it as we talk. So what you're saying is the elephant in the room is how do we work as a team? How do we work as a team? How do we make sure the two parties are able to actually complement each other without so much pressure, to be able to complement each other without conflict, and so on and so on. My slides, I hope they will behave. I can see they are not behaving, so maybe people will just have to make them slightly big, but I think my font is quite okay. When I reach there, it should be big enough. Just let me see. Colleagues, you'll have to bear with me. I think my system, I'm in a place where the internet is also very unstable. Let's see how it works out. So what are we saying about the HR audit? I'm just plugging in the gaps, which my able colleague Dorothy has actually helped us unpack. Basically, we are looking at a process that sets out to review. We are reviewing the services we offer on the people side of the business. And we are also reviewing the effectiveness of our function. Our function, which can be summarized in what we call our centers of excellence, meaning our first job is to make sure we're getting the right people, and then we make sure we build their capabilities and their capacity to deliver, make sure they are well rewarded and compensated, ensure their performance is well managed in terms of tracking, in terms of KPIs and everything. And then, of course, ensure that we create an organization that is as lovely to have. Just the same way we look forward to being with our families, we should also look forward to being in the organization. So the bottom line is we want to create a great place to work. We want to give people a wonderful experience. And we want to make sure people are fully engaged on the course of the business. So that is where we are. And when I was listening to my colleague Dorothy, there's an added item which then comes into play when we talk about internal audit for HR. Because significantly, you'll find we have a lot of emphasis on controls, on compliance, on governance. and also on risk. I've also been telling my colleagues in HR, it is time we took ownership of our HR risk management, the framework, the register and everything, so that we can have it complementing the bigger corporate risk management register. So one thing which comes in to really add value to audit, especially from a people perspective, is asking questions around the value addition. The people side of the business, does it add value? The people side of the business, does it create impact? Does it create momentum for change? Now, those questions are more strategic in nature, and we'll find therefore that the traditional audit, which would look at a lot of the historical items and try to ask questions around controls and risk and compliance and governance, we are now asking whether we are setting up an organization that is future ready. And future ready will mean, are we aligned to the intentions of the business? Are we speaking the business language? So the HR audit perspective then would pick a very strategic tangent in that area, very strategic. And I think this would be a massive departure from the kind of output we'd see from an internal auditor, since a lot of the work from the internal auditor would not deep dive into the body of knowledge that is HR and human capital, and into the body of knowledge that has to do with people leadership, the culture environment, and performance and progression. So that's where we need to start asking questions on how do we build synergy so that we can incorporate each other into that kind of thinking. So I have isolated 5 things we need to talk about. And the first one, my colleagues need to know that they have problems with internal audit because they see internal audit as a fault finder. And the fault finder would be, are you compliant? Are you addressing the risks? And so on and so on. So from a HR perspective, we are saying we are looking into the future of the organization, and we are asking whether we have future-proofed our processes, we have future-proofed our people, we have assured the business about continuity, and whatever the business is doing well, we have assured them about scalability. So those environments, they would then require, exactly the way Madam Dorothy said, that you must not be an accountant for you to do an internal audit, either for the business or just for HR. You need to understand the body of knowledge that is called human capital management. You need to be able to deep dive in the hardware components of it. You need to be able to deep dive in the software components of it, which is the people leadership. And we will get a massive improvement in the business if the 2 systems are then able to complement each other, the controls, compliance, governance, and risk, being now complemented by future-proofing, by setting up talent management systems, setting up talent, what we call the talent benches. We set up the talent pools. We just get obsessed with creating an organization for the future. That is what really comes out clearly in that perspective. Now, number 2, as a talking point, we are saying that within the process of HR audit, we set out to discover. We do not seek just to test or retest or do whatever. We actually set out to discover. And when you set out to discover, it means you are going to establish, other than dust gaps, you're also going to establish opportunities which we can then lock in, opportunities which we can align the business so that the business can then thrive and, of course, deliver the needed employee experience, customer experience, as well as the shareholder experience. So the process of discovery calls upon us as the HR auditors and also the internal auditors to therefore set up systems where we can collect diverse quantities of data, and then we use systems of triangulation and tell the story that is coming out of this data. Because our job as the people in charge of HR, our job is to tell the people story. And we have to tell the people story based on what we are discovering. So we will be looking into the future to discover what does the future portend. What predictives can we see into the future? What models can we see into the future? And then where are we at the moment? What is the baseline? The baseline means where are we at the moment? And I always tell people where are we at the moment would be akin to looking at the general population. There are people who are healthy and they are walking. There are people who are slightly sick. They are attending outpatients. There are those who are sick admitted. Then there are those who are sick in HDU, and there are those who are sick in ICU. So we need to establish where are we in terms of practice. Are we healthy? It doesn't mean if we are healthy, we are good to go into the future. We can be healthy, but we are just doing maintenance. So we must be healthy and ready to go into the future. And woe unto you if your practice is in HDU or ICU, then it means you got a crisis on your hands and you got to deal with it ASAP. So that's the kind of environment we are talking about. And all this has to work when we work closely with the other professionals who are the internal auditors, so that we tend kind of complement each other. Then number 3, as a talking point is we always would want to do our audits as HR, building on the human capital management needs, and the human capital management needs have more to do with talent. They have more to do with the data and analytics. They have more to do with the leadership, succession planning, and so on and so on. So we would want to focus more on that, because the other activities of the internal auditor from now the other perspective of the business, they would have helped us manage compliance to an extent. They would have helped us check on the controls, check on the risk assessment, everything, and also check on governance and so on and so on. So we got to fill in the other spaces which are remaining, which are the future of the business. And key to it, you can see we are talking about are we able to understand how far and how well we are from the best practice, preferred practices, how far and how well we are from the support we give to the business strategy. What about conformance? Are we conforming to other standards, regulatory standards, ISO standards, for example, because ISO is very keen on HR. They are also very keen on HR governance. Are we conforming to those elements? So this kind of environment then takes us to another level of audit, which is a highly engaging deep dive into what we do. And it really creates excitement when we bring out some issues and just talk about them. The HR audit is also collaborative. Collaborative, number one, in the sense that we are part of a team that is accountable for making sure controls are working, compliance is moderated well, and also just that the business is sound, and the people we have on board, every other person we have on board, they are fit for purpose. fit for purpose now and fit for purpose into the future. So the collaborative element will also be where we keep checking, cross-checking and rechecking on the go. We don't have to wait for the ceremony of audit for us to isolate an incident or an event and maybe just see how it can be course corrected to deliver the business the way we want it, and so on and so on. So the HR audit, in essence, then would be also a continuous process, continuous health check. If we can sort it now, let us sort it now. If it can wait maybe for a board decision for it to be approved. Maybe it is a slightly out of context scenario, then it has to wait. So we just don't want to be sitting and saying we have to wait. We need to be on the go. We need to be in a momentum of change, a momentum of improvement, and that momentum of change and improvement will come when we are in a consistent state of audit, auditing our processes, auditing everything, auditing the work environment, the work climate, the leadership. Then it will give us what we want. The final aspect, which I wanted to talk about, because I said there were 5, it is that you can do a partial audit, partial HR audit. Most of the partial HR audits will be on demand in the sense that maybe we feel something is arising and we just need to check the health of it. And we always encourage our colleagues in the medium term, maybe every 3 years, we need to tear down the entire people function, the entire service area, and really check the hardware components, check the software components, check alignment to strategy, and that would be called now the comprehensive audit. So what are we saying in short? In short, we are saying, number 1, that internal audits and HR, we complement each other. And we complement each other because internal audit will check on controls, will check on risk, matters compliance, matters governance. And we will then go into the future business scalability issues and see whether whatever we are doing good now, can it be done into the future? And we have the kind of capabilities that are required. We also go find out from the users of our services. This is very, very important. We find out from the users of our services what they think about our service. Colleagues, we could think we are doing a good job until the users tell us that whatever we are doing, it is not good at all. So it is very, very important we also talk to our users. And in talking to our users, they will tell us what is our brand image as a practice, as a service provider. Because inward, we will have our own identities. We are trying to be good fellas. We are trying to make sure nothing goes wrong. But the people will tell us maybe they don't feel empowered, they don't feel they belong, they don't feel they are loved. And we tell them, but even money comes on time. They say, no, it's not about money. Maybe it's just about a pat on the back. So all that is very essential. So because of the way we complement each other, we then get a global feedback mechanism giving us so much as the HR practitioners, and it works very well that way. So the internal auditors will do their part. They will also audit quite well our processes, our risk areas, our systems. And then we'll also cross-check with them because we have a deeper understanding of the body of knowledge that is people, the people side of the business, and then we should be able to move things the way the business wants to move. On the table, we really need to work on our image, like we said. We are not held in in good books anywhere. The two teams, so maybe we'll really need to start working collaboratively just to make sure things are working. We need to gain the trust of the leadership, the trust of our managers, and the trust of the service users, the guys who consume our services. We also need to learn to earn the trust of this group of people we call the value adders. We are trying to stop calling them junior or just officers, because they are the people at the shop floor. They are the people who are creating the impact. They are the people who are creating the change. So if they trust us, then I think the system will be ready to go. My parting shot would be, we need to look at possibilities where we can internally in the organization, we can complement each other. We can sit together at the table and really agree on a course of action that will create the impact and the change the organization desires. It will be suicidal for the two teams of auditors not to be talking together. It will be suicidal, because then it means we will be like fault finding each other. In the process of just doing normal audits, we would want to fault find each other. And then of course, there are people who will then even start asking, so what value do we add in the process of audit? We must add value, and we'll add value as a team. So my talk would end there, and I think I will take the session back to our presenters, our organizers, so that they can then help us take a few questions here and there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, TM. Colleagues, you can confirm that TM is a true trainer. And as I mentioned earlier, he is the lead trainer, the Certified Human Resource Auditor course offered by the Institute of Human Resource Management. So you cannot fail to attend this in case you see adverts from the Institute. Thank you so much, TM. Colleagues, let's clap for the two trainers before we go to Q&A. Kindly, let's clap for them. They've done wonderful presentations. I would love to see the clap, the clap, the clap. Good job. Thank you. Thank you so much. Are we not clapping? Thank you, Cecilia, for opening the floor. I love that. Thank you, Winnie. Yes, we have to appreciate them. Yes. TM, you can see for yourself. CPA Dorothy, you can see. The claps, yes, they're coming. Thank you so much. So now we are going to Q&A. I can see there are many, but we'll try and moderate. If you don't read yours, please, we'll get back maybe later because of the time. You'll allow us not to read all the questions. So to kick us off, question number 1, there's Rose Chelembi. I believe all the questions are on Q&A. No one has put his or her questions on the chat box. We requested that before. So I believe all the questions are Q&A chat. So we have Rose Chilembi. Rose Chilembi is asking if we can share the HR audit report structure. TM, is that okay? Do you have that?
Hi, Milka.
Hi.
Yes, we will share. I think I will share the table of contents.
Okay.
Together with my short presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, and allow me, because I'm seeing the Q&A, allow me just to run through them, especially what applies to HR audit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, TM, for that.
Paulo Cheng is asking whether an organization can allow HR to undertake a HR audit. And number one, we need to know that as HR, you need to have your calendar of activities alongside the business's financial year. So in your calendar of activities is where, if it is the season for a comprehensive audit, then you will build it in, and that comprehensive audit Ideally, we prefer it be done by a third party. Now, in your HR calendar, of course, you will have activities, and occasionally you need to cross-check. Just do a health check on 1 or 2 areas that you can do internally without actually involving an outside party. Anonymous was asking whether we can share the audit toolkit. Yes, we will share that. My mentor, Mr. Turi, is asking, should HR audit be conducted by internal audit or contracted to external audit? Like I've said, because it is a unique body of knowledge, internal audit will check on risks based on the risk register. They will check on controls and compliance based on legislative and regulatory environments. However, matters to do with best practice, matters to do with the strategic human capital management and the future of the organization, and whether we are future ready, then those matters have to be done by the HR practitioners themselves. Then some Robin on the audit of HR scope. Are we auditing psychological safety? Yes, Robin, and that is part of what we were saying is a top tier kind of audit where we are auditing even issues to do with employee well-being, matters to do with wellness, matters to do with the arising trends, working from anywhere, working from home, remote working. My sister Dorothy had talked about Generation Z. Just wanted her to know we are actually, from a people perspective, we are preparing for a generation called the digital natives. Generation Z, I think they're already in the bag. We have aligned with them, so they have ceased being a big concern. The digital natives coming through are the ones who are the next set of concerns and priorities. So you have to audit the softer sides as well. The employment climate, the organizational environment. We even audit the organizational design in terms of the structure. Does it deliver strategy? Does it support the business intentions, and so on and so on. Polo Cheng is asking, when is the next IHRM training? Milka, that is yours. Charles is asking, how can you advise a company that laid off its employers a cost cutting, bearing in mind that is a risk? Yes, Charles, I've read that question. What we are saying is that like I said, if we are not on the table, we are not sitting on the table with everyone else, then you will be on the menu. And when you're on the menu, they will come for your people. They will come for your budgets. So we need, as practitioners, we need to change the storyline around people and culture. We need to reorient the organization. And I've been telling participants in my sessions that a long time ago, we used to say people are the most important resource. Now we are saying people are the organization. So if people are the organization, why are you cutting them? I've checked on quite a number of institutions in the post-pandemic environment, and the institutions that are struggling are those ones which went into a layoff mode. The ones that are thriving are those which took advantage of the slowdown to actually do capacity and capability building for their people. And since a lot of it was easily done on virtual, then you could move a lot of ground. Now, those guys, when the pandemic slowed down, they hit the ground cruising. These guys are still at the takeoff stage, trying to put together teams and see what it can work. So from a HR perspective, let us be the activists. That's what David Ulrich says. Let's be the activists and defend our people and really champion the cause of the people. Mohammed Abdurrahman is asking details about the certified HR audit certification. I think Milka, you'll respond to that. Do we have a standardized HR plan? Terry is asking. I'm hoping she's asking about a template for the audit. Terry, I hope if I give that template, then that should answer your questions. Which audit software is ideal for HR audit? We don't have a software that can be said to be ideal because you don't have a software specific to audit. most of the enterprise resourcing softwares like SAP, like Oracle, they would help you to generate the first line reports and maybe tell you the story in the data. What you do from that first line report and the data now is about your mental capabilities and mental proficiency, because you got to interpret, and the machine will not interpret for you. It is all about your mind. Kelvin is asking, yes, about the toolkit. Yes, again, Kelvin, we have a toolkit which we use in the part of the training. We will share, but I said we shall share the TOC, then people can see what to do around it. Of course, you can then customize to your needs to make sure everything responds to your internal needs. Anonymous is asking about HR audit and politics, county politics. And it is important to note that it's not just about county politics, it is about organizational politics. It is about the organizational culture. It is about the organizational climate. So in the process of audit, like Madam Dorothy would confirm, part of our action areas is stakeholder mapping, stakeholder management, strategies, and making sure every interest party has a win-win kind of possibility. Lastly, there is Shalene. Shalene is asking how often should it be done? I said the comprehensive audit, we say every 3 years, because it is pretty deep. And I think a number of counties are already doing that to the best of my knowledge. Then we have the on-demand ad hoc audits. It could be a requirement of a contract you want to enter into for partnership with another institution. They want to know your people health, your HR health. You have to do an audit. Then on-demand in the sense that maybe there's an issue that is arising. Like right now, we might need to audit the aspects around working from home to see whether we are good to go into the future in terms of the scope and depth of the policies and everything. So it can be on demand, or it can be the comprehensive end of season. Amos, you're asking about the checklist. We will share that. Beatrice is asking how can she kickstart her career in HR after being out for that number of years, about 8. Beatrice, I think this you can side chat. Maybe you can get hold of Milka. But ideally, you can start by looking for internship possibilities. And we always insist, whatever the world throws at you, you take it. Don't be choosy when you're starting, because you need to build a base, you need to build experience. So see what you can do. Maybe you can reach out and ask more questions around that, and we should be able to respond via the IHRM office. Should lost man hours be part of the internal HR audits? Man hours, downtime, idle time is part of audit because it directly impacts performance and productivity. Milka, back to you. I think I've run through very fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, TM, for answering the questions, reading and answering at the same time. CPA Dorothy, do you have something to say, comments?
Milka, I can see most of the questions have been addressed by by TM, and I think because they were referring to HR audit. And I suppose we can have an engagement with the TM after this so that we see how we can, complement each other, especially from the institute perspective. And then I've seen a question about IIA. I think for you to be an internal auditor, there's a certified internal auditor course. And we also have trainings that are structured for internal audit for HR. And I think we have one like that next year. And I don't have much to say. Thank you for the opportunity. And unless my CEO has something to say, thank you.
Okay, thank you, CPA Dorothy. Thank you, Milka. And thank you, participants. Just to thank everyone for taking time to attend the webinar. If you have any questions about the Institute of Internal Auditors, please reach out to us and we'll be able to answer them. And for any trainings, any upcoming one, we'll have a HR audit training in February 2023 for internal auditors. You can also check that as well and register. Thank you. Back to you, Milka.
Thank you so much, TM. Thank you, CPA, Dorothy. Thank you, Joyce, the CEO, Internal Audits. Before I invite our CEO to make the closing remarks, I would like to remind members that 2022 is coming to an end. And for your 2023 renewal, please remember you are supposed to have the 10 CPD points. This particular free forum is going to award you 1 CPD point. And remember, the free forum can only award you up to a maximum of 3 CPD points. We are planning for 1 physical training, CPD free forum, physical. And stay tuned, we'll share the details once it's ready. And there are other areas of getting a CPD points. You can do articles, you can train, so long as you have a letter confirming that you did that training. You can share your articles. HRM normally a request for articles. So you can do that and get your 1 CPD points. We also have approved firm that are accredited to offer trainings. If you check our HRM website, they are listed there. You can attend their trainings and get your CPD points. And I cannot close this before I allow our CEO to talk, that we are having HR dinner awards coming up. I know CEO will also talk about it on 20th of December. Please don't miss. The communication has been going around on areas to participate. So please don't miss. It is an opportunity that you should not miss. So thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you, our trainers. We'll see you next time. So allow me to invite our Executive Director, CHRP Koresha, to close for us this webinar. Thank you so much. Karibu sana, Idi.
Thank you so much, Milka. Indeed, that was excellent and timely presentations, especially what's the HR perspective. You know, we've assumed that when it comes to auditing, it's a finance responsibility, and when they come, they're always asking for the HR files and all that. This has been very, even for myself, I have learned a lot, and we've remained constant. More than 300 of us were planning to run. And as you're aware, during our conference, we've announced that we've set standards, HR standards, especially when it comes to audits. And one of the things that will be coming up is that anyone who wants to be doing HR audits must be certified by the Institute. And that's why we're doing the trainings. So far, we have about 120 HRs who are certified through the programs we're running with our partner and Tom Michela, and look out for them as we roll them out. In terms of the standards, also, we're coming up with a standard, which is also final. It should be available on our website soon. But most importantly, not everyone can be an auditor. As Milka has mentioned also, you know, we are HR professionals and we need to stay relevant. We also need to appreciate each other. On 9th December, we will be having the HR Excellence Award combined with the dinner. The very exciting categories, we have the individual categories, we have government ministry categories, state corporations categories, organization and corporate categories, county government categories, and county public service board categories. Please nominate yourself, nominate your organizations. It feels good to be an award winner. Don't miss out the opportunity, and it's closing on 18th of November for the submissions. And we come and dine, enjoy, network on 9th of December. I hope you will all come from far and wide, and looking forward to making this HR professional and giving them the space they need for us to excel, audit ourselves, share the standards, even the counties. I know the questions have come, what do we do in counties and all that. please note, as Dorothy and also Tom has alluded to, it's all about you. The standards you give them is what they will follow. But if we keep quiet about it, then nothing happens. And you've seen as an institution, we've made one milestone. We've signed an MOU with the Council of Governors. That is where the 47 government's decisions are made. So we want to institutionalize this and ensure support our HR professionals in the different counties. Thank you so much. And for those of you who are asking the presentations, please, this has been recorded on YouTube. Follow it from there. We will not be sharing the presentations as that is an intellectual property, but you can read them and replay from there. Our YouTube channels, and I'm sure the Institute of Internal Auditors will also upload theirs. Thank you so much, and over to you, Milka.
Thank you, Edie. Thank you for the closing remarks. Who am I to talk after my executive director? I only have to say thank you and bye-bye to everyone. See you next time. Thank you so much for attending this session. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Okay, bye.